Hare Krishna Mataji. This is Neetu. Dandavat Pranam. This is Neetu from Baltimore.
Hare Krishna Neetu Mataji. Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much Mataji for joining and giving your recitation. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru and Gauranga ki jai. This is Shivani from Ashram, Virginia. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Shivani Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much Mataji for joining and giving your sweet association every day and beautiful chanting.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Shri Guru and Gauranga and all assembled devotees. Yashamati from Chicago.
Hare Krishna Yeshumati Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much Mataji for joining and giving your sweet association.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Vinita Gandharvika Mataji, Dandavat pranams to you and all the assembled devotees. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. This is Lalitangi Radha Devi dasi.
Hare Krishna Lalitangi Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much Mataji for joining and giving your sweet association. For waiting to hear from you Mataji. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. This is Sudevi from Virginia. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Sudevi Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for your valuable association every day and beautiful chanting.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Sudevi, so sweet. Is there anybody who would like to introduce themselves? Hare Krishna everyone, welcome to Bhakti Sangha Japa conference call. Today we are very fortunate to have Her Grace Lalitangi Mataji to enlighten us on the topic of Srila Prabhupada Lilamrta. As every Friday we do Lilamrta each chapter, one on Friday. So today we are on 27th chapter. Mataji is here with us to enlighten us on the chapter 27, Lilamrta. Mataji, take over Mataji. I am giving you co-host.
Yes, Mataji. Thank you so much, Mataji, for such a wonderful opportunity. And also thanks to all the devotees. This has been so nice reading and hearing to the beautiful pastimes of Srila Prabhupada, chapter by chapter. So we know so many details in this, and also we can understand how many more details are there. So it helps us to know about our founder more, connect with him, meditate on his mission, and try to follow in the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada and our spiritual masters. So we are in chapter 27, purely by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and all the acharyas. So let us begin by offering prayers, requesting their blessings on us. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakayam Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नम ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधरा श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदम। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। मुखं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्यमीश्वरं। हरिः ओं तत्सत्। Okay, so we are in chapter. Is it clear, Mataji, my audio?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay, so we are in chapter 27 of Prabhupada Lilamrta, and the previous chapters were very heart-wrenching. We saw how Srila Prabhupada suffered a stroke and he was in the hospital. Then he was taken out for recuperation, and he was they took a beach house, and he was in the sun and taking rest and enough massages. But still, the Prabhupada felt that he wasn't getting much better there. So he wanted to go to India for getting fit, get a full recovery. And we saw how the devotees were feeling, and their interaction with Srila Prabhupada, and how initiations happened even in the last minute. They were not sure whether he will come or not back. And also we can see the anxiety of Srila Prabhupada.
Mataji, your voice is in and out, Mataji. Sometimes it is nice, sometimes it is going low.
How about now?
Yeah, now it is good, Mataji, but suddenly, see, when you are starting also, it was low. Again, it was good. Again, it is like that.
Should I rejoin?
Mataji, now it is coming good. So do we want to continue? And then shall I give you a message in the chat?
Yeah, yes, Mataji. I'm sorry for the trouble. Recently, this internet, or I don't know, this computer has been giving this. So let's see how far we can go. Yeah, so we can see the anxiety of Srila Prabhupada, and he asked his disciples to pray that my master has not finished his work. So if you so desire, kindly let him stay here. So this he decided to fly to India with the disciple Kirtanananda, and at that time Kirtanananda Das, and that's what this chapter starts with. So they boarded the plane and they had a stopover at London, and so they made a stopover for not for 16 hours but only for 6 hours or so, where Srila Prabhupada could recuperate, have some rest, and then continue his journey again. But when they boarded the plane again, they were asked to get down, because they found that a passenger who flew earlier that day in that plane was diagnosed with smallpox. So the whole plane had to be completely fumigated and disinfected, and so they ended up staying there for 16 hours. And so even on that stay, he's writing a letter to Brahmananda, and he's saying that I'm always thinking of your separation feelings for me. And please do your duty nicely, and Krishna will help you in all respects. And Prabhupada is reminding him that he made a connection with Mr. B.K. Nehru, who was the ambassador at that time to India. And when he spoke to him about his case, Mr. Nehru said that he will help with his permanent visa when he comes back. And he's, of course, staying in Washington. So Srila Prabhupada is asking Brahmananda to go make an appointment to meet him and give him the books, Srimad Bhagavatam and the other books that they have. So he's constantly meditating on what they could do there. And he knew that they were completely dependent on him. And so he was giving this instruction to Brahmananda, and he also wrote that my health up to now was okay, and I hope to reach Delhi, and from there to Vrindavan, and I will write to you from there. So from London, they had a stopover again at Moscow, and when they wanted to go around the terminal, so the person over there, he took their passports, and then so they let them go around. And even at that time, Srila Prabhupada is looking at the pictures and saying that these are propaganda pictures. And he saw how many free literatures were there lying around, and he actually was inspired by this, that the communists could get such an influence in Bengal even without coming there, just by the distribution of their literatures. So even now we can see that Bengal and Kerala are the strong communist hold states. So he was observing that how there were so many free literatures about communism all around. And then they took a flight, and the flight landed in Delhi. So when we all land, we know that, the wall of heat welcomes us. So Srila Prabhupada says that I know I am in, writes to a disciple that I know I am in India because we were greeted by a wall of heat. And there are so many people to greet the other passengers, but there's not much nobody was there to greet Srila Prabhupada and Kirtanananda. And it was much different from the tearful farewell scenes that they had when they left San Francisco. So as usual, they were stormed by the taxi drivers talking to Srila Prabhupada in Hindi, and then Prabhupada talked to one person and told him to take them to the Chippiwada temple. That is the temple of Krishna Pandit, where Srila Prabhupada stayed before he left. So even in between also, Krishna Pandit had written asking if Srila Prabhupada is coming back, or he wants the place to be cleaned. But Srila Prabhupada, I guess, was paying the rent and keeping the room, because that was his Delhi office. So it was night time because the plane landed at 2 o'clock, and the narrow lanes were not crowded because it was in the night, and there was human hauled carts were all parked, and the people who were hauling the carts, they were sleeping on the carts, and all whatever is happening in the night is described. Then they come to narrow lanes, and again they came to one lane beyond which the taxi, the ambassador, the car, those days the car means it was a ambassador car, and the taxi couldn't go any further. And Prabhupada handed 40 rupees to the driver, the same 40 rupees that he had with him when he went. And the driver, he took all the 40 rupees. Actually, the fare shouldn't even be half of that. So obviously, he should be giving the change, but he was arguing back and forth. And Prabhupada was also arguing with him in Hindi. And, the conversation went on for quite some time, and he would give no change. And at that time, there was no point in calling any policeman. So Prabhupada let the man go. But he told that he cheated me. So then both of them took the luggages shared the luggages, took, and they started walking down the narrow street, and it was in the night, so they had to bang the door so many times, and then one sleepy-eyed person came and opened and gave the key to their room. So when the room was opened, Kirtanananda was shocked, because everything was just as Prabhupada left in his Srimad Bhagavatam manuscripts, the dust jackets and so many letters, and we saw that he had used the pebbles, heavy pebbles, as a paperweight. This picture, this photo here must not have been exactly the time when they landed and entered, but this is the size of the room. Here we can see that there is a dome. This is representing that the deities are right below, and so nobody steps on them accidentally. And so this is the place available for Srila Prabhupada. So he's, the room was not even clean. And so Srila Prabhupada said this, that I slept here. There's only this much space. So he said, I slept here. Over there was my cooker and my typewriter. I would sleep, type, and cook, and type, and sleep, and type. So, always there was we can see that he rose very early in the morning and kept on typing. So, Kirtanananda was shocked to see that it was such a poor and humble place he was living. And then somehow he managed to find a thin mattress for Swamiji. So after that, 2 Ayurvedic doctors came and they checked that. They said that the trouble was his heart, and then they would give some medicines. And but the next morning, Krishna Pandit, he also came to visit, and few other neighbors, they came to visit Srila Prabhupada. They all was curious to see Kirtanananda. But the next afternoon, Prabhupada developed a cough. The cough was occasional, but then it became so persistent. In the night, he had a fever of 104. And the Ayurvedic doctors came and they gave him some, medicines. But Kirtanananda was skeptical. So he saw that Swamiji had trouble, especially when he was lying down. He couldn't even lie down. He was coughing so much. So he thought that this could be pneumonia, and he had a penicillin dose with him. So he gave that, and the next day he called a doctor who was practicing Western medicine, and he came and he confirmed that this was pneumonia and gave him penicillin injection. And pneumonia to an old person is not a good news. So Kirtanananda writes to his god brothers in New York that I know you're all waiting for my letter, and I know you are all waiting to hear what happened to Swamiji, how is he doing. But if I have to tell frankly, that he's not doing very good. So I request all of you to please chant Hare Krishna. We have chanted Hare Krishna and he was saved previously, and I can now say that only by chanting Hare Krishna he can be saved. And also he says that it was by Krishna's mercy, and he writes that I know that his task is not yet complete, and by Krishna's mercy he can again be spared. So it was that bad, but after the penicillin injection, the cough came down, and the fever, which was 104, came down to 100. Immediately the next day, when the fever, still he was coughing and he had fever, he started dictating a letter to the book selling agents in Delhi, the agents who took his books for selling. So he started writing to them that what is the current sales and how many books are there and how much was sold. And that is Srila Prabhupada. Just even when he's little bit he immediately jumps into service. So many times, many people ask this question to His Holiness Jayapataka Maharaj, that how come you're able to be so enthusiastic, travel against all physical constraints and challenges. So I've seen him answering this. I'm very grateful to Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada, in spite of his old age and so much frailing health condition, he did so much, and I'm just trying to serve him. So after a stroke, when people also asked him how you are able to manage giving so many classes and having the same schedule throughout, he said that about the stroke that Srila Prabhupada had. When Srila Prabhupada had that stroke on the Memorial Day, he was paralyzed from neck below. Nothing was working from neck below. He couldn't move. But with just the head moving, he was giving a class. So this was in 1967, and Guru Maharaj mentioned about this class and said that, yeah, we are deeply inspired by Srila Prabhupada. So after that, many old acquaintances in Delhi, they came to see Srila Prabhupada, invite him for the home program. We remember how he used to do home programs in Delhi, and especially in one home, one place, he did continuously weekly once program for 1 year. Like that, people who knew him, they came to invite him, but Srila Prabhupada's health condition was not in condition that he could go and talk. So instead, he sent Kirtanananda. So Kirtanananda would go and play the record there. They had that album, they made that Hare Krishna album, Srila Prabhupada singing Hare Krishna and the devotees singing back, and his description of what is on chanting Hare Krishna. So he used to play that, and after that explain a little bit and have Kirtana, played Mridanga, and raise his hands and dance, and people were stunned to see the first Westerner take up Krishna consciousness so seriously. So then he wanted to return to Vrindavan, but even the next day, but he was not in a position. So after 6 days, they decided to travel to Vrindavan, and Kirtanananda Prabhu writes to his godbrothers that we found a ticket first class. It was a special third class compartment in the train, and so he was it was a little bit less crowded. So now we are in the Radha Damodara rooms, where Swamiji had written, and he has nice rooms, and he says that the only difficulty on his behalf is that these Indians all want to see him, and they're very persistent, and I'm not very successful in keeping them out. So, and he's saying that Vrindavan is beautiful even materially. So many trees, monkeys, peacocks, and so many temples. It's also very poor. Both the people and the temples are in a bad state of disrepair. But spiritually considered, there are many great devotees here, and it is wonderful to walk down the streets and see tilaks all over the place, because all of them are wearing tilak. And he's saying tilak because that is how, Prabhupada would have his accent say that. I was so surprised to see that. And this is what he said: if I can develop a fraction of their devotion for Krishna, my life will be successful. And it is so thrilling to hear the temple bells ringing so many times throughout the day. So the next, Srila Prabhupada reached to Vrindavan, and the next day, he started planning to return to the West again to preach. So he's writing to the devotees, telling that, oh, my students, dear my students, and I cannot stop my Western world activities, and I've taken leave from you only for 6 months, but I can come even before that again. Kirtanananda says, from my bodily feature that I'm improving, I am also feeling like that. And so we have the letter at the end. I think we can read that fully. So continuously he was writing letters, at least 1 or 2 letters a day. And if he didn't receive a reply in a week, he would write again to that particular disciple. So he was writing to Brahmananda that we have to print Bhagavad Gita. I mean, at that time, there was not even a Bhagavad Gita printed. So what they were doing, was reading the old manuscripts and the Easy Journey to Other Planets and the first three cantos of first three volumes. That means first canto in 3 parts. So that was what the devotees were reading and taking classes on. And we can see that how Srila Prabhupada was simply a touchstone. There's no temples, no books, no big establishments, no money, but he conquered them with his heart full of devotion and his genuine care and love for them. Because everybody felt that there is no one who cared for me than Srila Prabhupada. So that's what we can see in so many testimonies. So he's talking about we have to print Bhagavad Gita, and then I need to complete translating the other cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam, and so much to do. And this was August, and he decided that he wanted to return by October to West and continue his service there. So meanwhile, the temperatures rose, and we can see how hot it could get to Vrindavan, and Srila Prabhupada liked it so much, but it was not so agreeable to Kirtanananda. He couldn't practically do anything at all, and they both stayed indoors. And he's writing to his godbrothers again that it's such a hot place. But thank God the rains have started and there is some relief. And yesterday they began the festival of Julan, in which Radha and Krishna came out and swing for about 5 days. So I made the rounds of about a half a dozen temples here. Some of them are extremely beautiful inside, although most are small. And then like this, he's writing about the glories of Vrindavan and how it is hot. And then he said that it was not Hinduism, not India. It was Swamiji and chanting Hare Krishna that was sustaining their spiritual life. So Srila Prabhupada also wrote that Vrindavan is only an inspiration. Our real work is in the West. So he writes that even if I die, you are my future hopes and you will do it. I'm feeling very much for you all. Please let the ball roll on just as it is set. So now Brahmananda wrote to Swamiji that asking him why he had to suffer so many health issues like this. That could happen for the neophyte devotees, because the previous letter, Srila Prabhupada had written that he was attacked by Maya. So Brahmananda had a question, was Swamiji also being attacked by Maya? So Prabhupada writes back, don't be afraid of my being attacked by Maya. When there is a fight between two belligerent parties, it is always expected that there will sometimes be reverses. Your country and the Western world is mostly under the grip of Maya and the modes of nature in passion and ignorance. And my declaration of war against the Maya is certainly a great battle. Maya saw me very successful within 1 year, so that I got so many sincere young followers like yourself and others. So it was a great defeat to the activities of Maya. Western country youngsters giving up the illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating and gambling is certainly a great reverse in the activities of Maya. Therefore, she took advantage of my old age weakness and gave me a death dash. But Krishna saved me. Therefore, we should thank more Krishna than eulogize Maya. So far as my present health is concerned, I think I am improving. At least I am taking lunch better than in New York. So as soon as I am a little fit to return to the field of battle, I shall again be in your midst. This was his letter. Then Srila Prabhupada always envisioned an American house in Vrindavan, where his disciples can come and stay and learn so many things, especially Sanskrit and other devotional philosophies. So in the early letters, if we see that he had written to many of his disciples about his idea to make an American house. So with that in mind, he and Kirtanananda, they visited Bon Maharaj's Institute of Oriental Philosophy. So Bon Maharaj is a godbrother of Srila Prabhupada, and he had a degree college there. Actually, initially it was first started with aim to disseminate Vaishnava philosophy, but because of having to get accredited in the normal universities, and so it became like little diluted. But at least they were teaching Sanskrit and some Vaishnava philosophy. But he also looked very different, and they are describing that he wore leather slippers, shorts visible through his thin dhoti, and an iron shirt with brass studs. Appeared sophisticated, an educated man with straight, neatly parted graying hair. So although he's a resident of Vrindavan, he had spent time in England in 1930s. So he had this Oriental philosophy, and then so Srila Prabhupada was asking him if his disciples could come there and study Sanskrit. And so he also accepted that he could accommodate the students free of charge, because Srila Prabhupada explained that they did not have much money there. And so he was saying that, yes, and also Prabhupada had an idea that if he could give them some land, then they could make an American house there. But yeah, that was pending. Then meanwhile, on August 28th was Krishna Janmashtami, and Kirtanananda was awarded sannyas at Radha Govinda temple. Sorry, Radha Damodar temple. There were many visitors. They all came to congratulate the young sannyasi. And Srila Prabhupada, after that, many letters, the ones that he wrote, he mentioned about Kirtanananda given sannyas. And then he's writing that I shall try to utilize this white sannyasi for recruiting some members in India. So meanwhile, Achyutananda also arrives, but he came from Delhi. He got a 5 rupee donation from someone, so he could take a train to Mathura. In Mathura, he went to Keshavaji Gaudiya Mutt, where Narayan Maharaj was there, and he showed the place where Srila Prabhupada took sannyas, and he put him on a bus to Vrindavan with an escort. And when Achyutananda came and prostrated before Prabhupada, Prabhupada was so happy. He said, "Oh, you are here." And Achyutananda saw Prabhupada in apparently good health, getting better. So and everything was like very simple and very also new to Achyutananda and Kirtanananda. And but it was also quite strange. So once when they were taking a darshan of Radha Damodar, there was this Gaurchand Goswami. He asked them, which one of them do you like? And Achyutananda answered that I like them all. He pointed to the deities, and then he said that I like that one because it looks like a General Chaudhary. So pointing offhand to the deities, and Kirtanananda and Achyutananda looked at each other in disbelief. So at this point of time, we can see that how there is only Jagannath deities there, and still Srila Prabhupada instilled the right mood in the devotees with respect to the deities, that they couldn't, they know that it is wrong to point at the deities or mention it as it and things like that. So they went and asked Srila Prabhupada that what kind of guys are they? That's what they're asked, and Srila Prabhupada said that they're caste Goswamis. Initially, when Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, Jiva Goswami, they built temples, they appointed householders to take care of the temple and the pujas. And these families now are descendants of them. So each and every temple had so much land and income, and there was so much opulence and jewels. But eventually, the standard was watered down and everything amalgamated. So all the deities amalgamated, the lands were sold, disappeared, the jewels disappeared, and now it is at this point of time. At this point of time, it was like very not in a good condition. So then they also saw many interesting characters. There was a widow, Sarajini, and she would come every day to clean Srila Prabhupada's um, room and wash his clothes. And she slept in a room by the gate of the temple, and always was very in a humble mood serving everyone. And there was this Panchudas Goswami, who was a son of the main Goswami who took care of the temple, and he was always chewing pan and sleepy-eyed, and he had silk dhoti and embroidery. And there was an old Babaji who would come in the night, and he would constantly be laughing. And he would bring sandalwood paste and apply it on Srila Prabhupada. And there was this Pandit who had this diamond rings and gold rings, and he was selling some things. And there was a homeopathy doctor. Like how all these scenes were interesting, but they all concluded one thing. What is that? Among all of them, Swamiji was still unique. No one else was so simple, so grave, so able to penetrate through falsity, so attractive to the heart, or so absolutely attached to Krishna. No one else could leave them. So that was their conclusion. And then once there was a European hippie couple, they came to Vrindavan, and Achyutananda took them to the Rangaji Mandir, but they were denied entry into the temple. So Achyutananda came back and asked that why this happened, and Srila Prabhupada is saying that's because you went with those fools. So all these interactions, I think only these things are mentioned here, but you can imagine how much more they would have had, how much more of conversation and association with Srila Prabhupada. So again, they visited Bon Maharaj school, but both Achyutananda and Kirtanananda looked at the classrooms, and there were girls giggling, and the boys, they were all like in Western clothes and attire. And there was a dormitory, and there were common bathrooms. So Prabhupada also was thinking whether the Western students could endure the austerity to study Sanskrit. Neither both of them were studious or austere. So, and also Bon Maharaj refused to give land to make American house. So that idea currently had to stop. So Srila Prabhupada now thought that if he wanted to make something in Vrindavan, a place, then he that needs to be his own place. So it looked like the American house was not manifesting right then. So that's when that study of encouraging students to come to study in Bon Maharaj Institute, that was also dropped at that point of time. So meanwhile, Sridhar Maharaj had written to one of Prabhupada's godbrother, had written to Prabhupada inviting him to come to Navadvip. So Achyutananda is asking, so Prabhupada, when you go to Navadvip, am I supposed to be here and study Sanskrit? And Prabhupada is asking, don't you want to come and see Lord Chaitanya's birthplace? So yes, he said certainly yes. And then they started out to Navadvip, but they first went to Delhi. So by September, he came to Delhi. It was only August 1st he went to Vrindavan with a month rest, and we can see so many letters. If you Google 1967 letters from India, Srila Prabhupada, you can see his letters. He was practically maintaining the centers there through his letters. So he declared himself 90% fit. And then they came to the Chippivada temple, and we can see that the Chippivada temple was very austere for both of his disciples. There was no water. Only for 2 hours the water would come, and they would fill the clay pots and several buckets with water, and then there would be no more water for the rest of the day. And there was mongoose, and then they asked, oh Swamiji, do they eat snakes? And Srila Prabhupada replied, they eat snake, they eat garbage, they eat anything. That was, and then in the next room, we can see how small the rooms are. And the adjacent rooms, that was occupied by somebody else. And there were a bunch of youngsters. They were practicing dance to the cinema songs, and they were playing the musical instruments. But, Swamiji tolerated it. I mean, Prabhupada tolerated it. And so Krishna Pandit, the proprietor of this temple. He was very pleased to see that how Swamiji went from here, and within 2 years, he got 2 disciples, and how they are practicing Vaishnava philosophy. And he also always wanted to spread Sanatana Dharma. So he invited Srila Prabhupada to give a lecture at the Gauri Shekara temple nearby. And that's the first time Achyutananda is visiting temple. Indian temple, and there he's describing how there are so many deities there, and it was so crowded, and even among all the deities, Durga, Ganesha, Lord Shiva, and Krishna and Radha. So Srila Prabhupada pointed out, did you see that everybody, all the deities, they are doing something or the other, and Krishna and Radha and Krishna are just dancing. Krishna is holding a flute, so he's a supreme lord. Then he saw that there was a heavy set man sitting on pillows, and then there were many flower garlands on him, and it reminded Achyutananda of Santa Claus. And he asked Swamiji, who is that? And then Srila Prabhupada said, he's some yogi. Prabhupada said, that is some yogi. Then there was, finally they came to the lecture hall, and Prabhupada spoke in Hindi for an hour in that. And then they came back to the temple, and came back to the house, and Achyutananda is thinking that Prabhupada is ready to speak anywhere, anytime. He came to New York to speak about Krishna Katha. Why wouldn't he go to Gauri Shankar temple, although it looked like a hodgepodge? There, after 2 days, there was one middle-aged lady who was listening to his lecture in Gauri Shankar temple. She came to his room asking for initiation. So Srila Prabhupada talked the rules with her, and then he asked Achyutananda to make the fire sacrifice, and he initiated her, giving her the name Mukunda Dasi. So she got the personal service of cleaning Srila Prabhupada's rooms here. And after she would clean, once she saw that the wooden slippers of Prabhupada was broken, and she replaced them with a new one. And there was one other interesting character, Chandra Shekara. So he was supposed to be Prabhupada's secretary working for him. But Prabhupada said that he must have stolen a lot of money from the mail. Because many of his Western disciples, when they sent letters, they said that we have sent money also, but he received none of them. So once he found Chandra Shekara in the building, and he asked, do you have my mailbox key? So Chandra Shekara answered that, no, you should be having it, or Krishna Pandit should have it. Then, Achyutananda is telling to Srila Prabhupada, can we call police? Then Prabhupada said no. Prabhupada shook his head no. And Chandra Shekara is listening to this conversation. Then Achyutananda is saying that if he's not punished by law, then he'll be definitely punished by Krishna. So Chandra Shekara looked fearfully from Prabhupada to his American disciple. Then there is only one thing to do. Achyutananda is saying, shall I call the police? Prabhupada said, no, I forgive him. All this conversation in front of him. Yet, only after a few days, the record player of Prabhupada, which he got, and he used to play the record. You know, those days, the tape recorder they call. So the record that he did to everyone around, but that record player disappeared. And Prabhupada suspected the drunkard, Chandra Shekara. That was what they mentioned about it. And after a few days, Prabhupada went to Bank of Baroda, and the guard there who's standing at the outside guarding with a gun and some uniform, he stopped Prabhupada from entering, thinking that they are sadhus coming for begging. Prabhupada spoke to him, in the Hindi and argued with him that he has to let him in, because showed him his bank account passbook that I have an account here and you need to let him in. And reluctantly he let him in. But directly Prabhupada went to the manager and he asked this, do you think because I'm a sadhu, I am to be regarded as a beggar? Prabhupada told the man of his organization in America and his account in Bank of Baroda. The manager apologized and reprimanded the guard. So how, Srila Prabhupada is seeing what is the mentality towards sadhus in India. Sadhus means beggars. But Prabhupada changed that, right? So he couldn't take that, how he was demeaning the sadhus. He was not angry personally for him, but he was angry because the society's idea of sadhus was shown by this God's behavior. So then one day Prabhupada told to Achyutananda, gave him, if you want to see the varieties of Indian food, you go to some sweet shop and savory shops and tell him that, for 10 rupees buy some sweets and savories. So Achyutananda was, amazing, but he had always had a stomach problem. He couldn't eat any of them. But Prabhupada used that to say that spiritual life is full of varieties. And he explained how Krishna consciousness was personal and full of varieties, not dry. So at that time, there was another disciple from San Francisco who was initiated just before Srila Prabhupada left. He was Ramanuja. He came and he had a beard, but Prabhupada mentioned to him about his beard, how? Cautiously and indirectly. But Ramanuja's beard still stayed. Ramanuja carried a book about Tibet and Buddhism, and he didn't seem fixed in Krishna conscious philosophy. But here he was, one of the looser, sentimental San Francisco devotees, ready for Indian adventures with Swamiji. So all of them staying there. Then Prabhupada visited the Delhi industrialist Seth Dalmia, Mr. Seth Dalmia, and he also visited Hanuman Prasad Poddar of Gita Press. He met Hitzer and Sharma, who was publishing his Back to God in magazines and also Bhagavatam. And he was insisting that his books have to get printed. So he's writing to Brahmananda, we have wasted much time in the matter of editing and finding out a suitable publisher. When I was alone, there were 3 volumes published, but during the last 2 years, I could not publish a single volume more. It is a great defeat. If I have 1 or 2 sincere souls like you, and if we can make more publications, then our mission will be a great success. I am prepared to sit down underneath the tree with 1 sincere soul in such activity, and I shall be freed of all diseases. We can see the power of service attitude that's coming out so strongly from Srila Prabhupada, and that's why, in Shyam Sundar Prabhu's book also, Chasing the Rhinos, he didn't want to do something, he didn't want to be complacent, he was behind them. If they achieved the goal, then he would set again 1 more. And there was no question of relaxing. And that way, he always kept them safe from Maya's indulgence. So, yeah, so he was writing to the disciples that as you are all feeling my separation, similarly, I'm also anxious to return as soon as possible. But I'm not yet assured of my permanent visa. And he is asking that if Macmillan Company has not taken up the work, then I will get it printed in India. So if Macmillan Company is not printing Bhagavad Gita, send the manuscripts here, and I will not leave India until I get it printed. So yeah, so he's writing so many letters, and in one statement. He says that my home is where my spiritual family exists. So practically your country is my home now. India is a foreign country for me. The reason is that my spiritual family is there and my material relationships are in India. Therefore, factually, where my spiritual family exists, there is my home. Yeah, so he sustained them through his letters, through his love, through his directions, and through himself being an example, practically through letters. And he wrote to Nandarani and Dayananda in Los Angeles, and they were introduced in San Francisco, and they were going to start a new center in Los Angeles. Although they were, fighting amongst themselves and they had no money, but when Swamiji's letter came, that he's very happy that they are going to attempt to start a new center and his blessings are there with him, then they were so much inspired and they put aside all the considerations and started working for a center there. Then Satsarupa wrote from Boston telling that how there was they are planning to go to a new storefront. And when he opened the new storefront and he's entering that for the first time, he found an aerogram from Delhi. Swamiji dated 6th October, Delhi. So he had written that he's going to move in there, right? And before he moved in there, Prabhupada sent him a letter for that address. That fast he was. And Jayapataka Swami Guru Maharaj always used to say that Prabhupada wanted things to be done yesterday. That was his mood always. Things should have been done yesterday. So Srila Prabhupada is writing, I can understand that you have secured a very nice place in Boston, and there is a very good possibility of pushing our movement amongst the student community there. Our movement is certainly very much appealing to the younger section of your country. And if we are successful in the matter of attracting the student community in your country, certainly this movement will scatter all over the world and fulfill the foretelling of Lord Chaitanya that in every village and every town of the world, the Lord will be famous for his glorious Sankirtana movement. Please strive for this with your heart and soul, and your life will be a successful mission. So this was like Srila Prabhupada coming directly to inaugurate or open the new place, and he felt so much direction and inspiration. And he wrote to Shubala in New Mexico, and he's saying that if you think I can be on television by the first week in December, then you can arrange for it, because I must be in your country by the middle of November. So he was, pushing the devotees, I mean, in a very nice and humble way. Who would do something for him? They hardly know him 2-3 years. But because of his love, his personal example, and his guidance, he could capture their hearts and, actually save them from Maya and engage them in Krishna's service. That was so amazing. Then the next letter he wrote to Janardana in Montreal, and Janardana had many philosophical questions. So he's answering that philosophical questions one by one, and his Janardana's wife was not very favorable. So he's asking him to be patient with his wife. And to Raya Rama, he's saying that I'm very happy that since BTG is interested to you, the things are improving. This means that Krishna is giving you more and more facilities. Krishna is such a nice boss that he gives more facilities and improvement to the sincere servant. So like this way, he wrote letters to so many disciples, and then finally he was, Kirtanananda had come to, has already flown back. So Prabhupada and Achyutananda was going to go to Navadvip, and he was, as he was starting, he didn't find Krishna Pandit available. So he's writing a note for Krishna Pandit. If you are not settling anything within the room, then I may not come back to Delhi anymore. I will go to USA directly from Calcutta via the Pacific route, for which Sri Dalmia Seth has already promised for the ticket. So who will give him the ticket now? So he had to arrange for his ticket himself, right? The first time Sumati Morarji gave in a ship. Now he has to solicit donation, and now he's saying that Dalmia Seth has promised for the ticket, and he was asking Krishna Pandit that if he can purchase the Chippiwada temple for ISKCON, or at least to rent the single room through formal contract. But Krishna Pandit was not available, so he's writing this note. So we can see that how Srila Prabhupada thought big always. Doesn't matter what he has, but he always thought big. He always wanted some place for Krishna. He was talking to them to get them to agree to do their maximum possible service to the Lord. So that was so nice to see. So here, this is a letter to the students. Yeah, this is a letter that was mentioned here in the beginning. Please accept my blessings. I'm always thinking of you and I'm feeling separation. I wish to return at the earliest opportunity. I cannot stop my Western world activities and have taken leave from you for only 6 months. And it may be that on or before I will come to you again. So continue your activities with great vigor. I shall always pray to Krishna for your steady advance, but try to follow the principles which are necessary to strengthen oneself in the matter of spiritual advance. Never think that I am absent from you. Physical presence is not essential. Presence by message or hearing is real touch. Lord Krishna is present by his message, which was delivered 5,000 years ago. We feel always the presence of our past acharyas simply by their immutable instructions. I hope you will understand me right and do the needful. Kirtanananda says for my bodily feature that I am improving. I am also feeling like that. Your ever well-wisher, A.C. Bhaktivedanta. There's one more letter to Uma, but there's so many more. We can read them and how he's interacting with each and every devotee, answering their practical and philosophical questions. So this is written on September 5th, 1967 from Vrindavan. My dear Umapati, I'm so glad to receive your letter dated 28 August through Achyutananda. You'll be glad to know that he has safely arrived here via Delhi. He is a very intelligent boy, but has safely come without any difficulty. Your letter is very much encouraging to me that you are appreciating my humble service in spreading Krishna consciousness in your great country. It was my ambition to begin my movement from New York, and by Krishna's grace, I got good cooperation from some boys like you, and I felt too much aggrieved when some of you left me. But I was confident that all of you would come again, because Krishna consciousness is not a material thing and cannot be broken. It cannot be burned or wet or dried or stopped at any stage. When I received your letter, it appeared to me that I had received a letter from a lost child. So please continue your present attitude. I have not heard anything from Harvey. Hope he is doing well. So far my health is concerned, I have improved considerably and I hope to return by October next. Kirtanananda is now a completely Krishna conscious person as he has accepted sannyasa on the birthday of Lord Krishna with great success. He is the first sannyasa in my spiritual family and I hope he will return back soon to begin preaching work with great vigor and success. Please try to cooperate with the temple managers because in my absence, they might feel some difficulty. You are one of the old founders of New York Temple, and I hope you shall take some active part in improving the original center. I shall be glad to hear from you at your convenience. Hope you are well. With all my blessings, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Thank you so much. I mean, just an overview of this chapter. So beautiful to be with Srila Prabhupada, traveling from Delhi to Vrindavan and being with him, seeing him write letters, and he is ready to undergo any austerity, but wouldn't leave any stone unturned for the service of the Lord. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. If you have any questions, comments, corrections, please share your realizations also.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. What a beautiful class, Mataji. It was just like a story, hearing everything. Chapter has a lot of things to make it as like a story. It is very hard. You made it very easy to understand. But I have a very small question, Mataji. I don't know if I don't understand this, I will not enjoy the later part. That's why I wanted to ask. Mataji, in the beginning, we saw that there was a book published, right? Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. And now again, you are saying this, still now Bhagavad Gita did not publish. Mataji, did I hear correctly?
Yeah. Bhagavad Gita was not yet published, right? It was, Brahmananda had got a confirmation from Macmillan, but it didn't go through. It happened only when he came here. So let me check that. Yeah. In Delhi, Prabhupada had received a letter from Brahmananda saying that Macmillan Company was definitely interested in publishing the Bhagavad Gita. In Vrindavan, Prabhupada wrote Brahmananda to sign a contract at once on his behalf. Prabhupada had been considering whether to print privately in Japan or India or to wait for Macmillan. He wasn't concerned with the prestige and financial advantages of publishing through Macmillan. His first concern was to print as quickly as possible. Yes, Mataji. So according to this, it was not yet published.
So but before Bhagavatam was published, few cantos, right, Mataji?
Bhagavatam he published in India itself, not few cantos, first canto, but in 3 volumes.
Okay, so until now only first canto 3 volumes are only there. Till
and
now.
Easy Journey to Other Planets. That also he published in 1959. Actually, that was published as a paper in Back to Godhead, and somebody asked him to do a book, so he published that as a book, and looks like few copies were there. He took with him. But then I asked, what? I mean, you can imagine preaching the Bhagavad Gita is basics, right? So at that, till that point, they didn't have Bhagavad Gita as it is with them. So what they were using, they were sometimes using Radha Krishnan's Bhagavad Gita for shloka and translation, not for the purport, because it was kind of mixed with impersonalism. That's what I heard from some lecture. Also from Prabhupada's manuscripts, because Prabhupada translated the Bhagavad Gita into English, but that manuscript was lost when he wanted to publish in India. Then again he redid it when he came to US. That's what I think we read in the previous chapters, Mataji. Is that, I don't know if it is clear.
Yeah, Mataji, I understood it, Mataji. Thank you so much, Mataji. Very beautiful how he was received in Vrindavan with not any, grand welcome. But when he was coming from there, how it was like so much of pain for the disciples, and it should be reverse, right, Mataji? There, that should be like that, and in India, it should be like that. But Krishna's plan, everything, and how that vehicle person was taking money extra, and Prabhupada always says, right, $1 also we should not leave. It's Krishna's money. Why do we leave? It is not our money though, and their money though. It is Krishna's money. We have to use it properly. Yeah, very nice, Mataji. Detailed explanation. I had to hear it again. Such a nice, it's like a story hearing about Srila Prabhupada. Hari bol, Mataji. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you for the opportunity. And you are really, I have to thank you because you're putting so much effort in convincing people, asking them, please, take up the service and please speak. So because you're doing that, this is running, Mataji. So thank you so much for that.
All glories to Bhakti Sangha, Mataji. So I open the forum for the question and answers and realizations. Please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Danvat Pranams. Such a nectarian class. It's always a pleasure to hear from you, Mataji. I just had one question. It was very inspiring to hear how, His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj derived inspiration from Srila Prabhupada, like how to preach even in adverse conditions. So I was wondering, you mentioned the year 1967. I'm not sure, Mataji, if I heard it right. Can you please repeat that?
So 1967, no, Guru Maharaj mentioned that he heard a class given by Srila Prabhupada in 1967 during the time when Prabhupada had a stroke and he was paralyzed from his neck down.
So that was, towards the end of Prabhupada's, life here in planet Earth, right?
No. This was during this before he came, right? He got a heart attack or stroke. Then they were taking him to that Memorial Day. It became more right. So that the episode that we saw like 2 chapters before, how he was taken to the hospital and then taken out. It was during that time because that happened now only like 1967. During Memorial Day. So between Memorial Day weekend, that's when he got the stroke. And Brahmananda says that he just went back and said a huge Hare Krishna. And there was no motion for some time. And he thought that, this was the last breath. Then he started breathing again. Then they couldn't find any doctor and they called one person. They said that he was a Jewish doctor, and he said that he doesn't have any problem. He was just having some flu or something. And all the people could see that he didn't have any flu, but he diagnosed like that. But then that person told Prabhupada one thing, that you need to walk every day. And Prabhupada took it as a, life's instruction. And that's when he started, his morning walks every single day so that the body is not jammed up. He used to say.
Yeah, I was just thinking it's kind of so miraculous that, like somebody who is paralyzed, neck down, could do so much after that. Because, it's at least on a human level, it's generally when somebody is paralyzed, neck down, they have to be on ventilator and it's very serious, right? So this is just like next to a miracle, when I heard you say that. So that's why I was very, very surprised, Mataji. Great devotees, anything is possible.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji, for a very, very valuable association and wonderful realizations. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj.
Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances.
Thank you so much, Mataji. The moment I hear you've done such a wonder. I mean, whom am I to tell you? But still, from my tiny side, it was such a beautiful, beautiful, class. Though you were saying what's there in the book, but the way you narrated it was so heart touching. The moment, whenever I hear that Srila Prabhupada glorify America, it feels so nice to be here. It feels like, it feels good that, but at the same time, I personally feel so urged and so pushed that, I feel I'm not doing anything for Srila Prabhupada. And what am I doing? Just eating, sleeping. Yeah, of course, Krishna conscious eating, Krishna conscious sleeping, Krishna conscious everything. But I feel I'm not doing anything. I'm not distributing books. I'm not promoting Krishna consciousness. And God knows when the, life will be ending, and don't know if I will ever become human again. And at the same, it is nectarian, of course, but at the same time, I feel so pained for me being so lazy, lethargic after listening, like it's an offense after knowing all this to remain materially, attached, our offense. And I feel the same way whenever I hear, and please give your blessings, Mataji, so that, and pray for me that I can do something for Srila Prabhupada before I die, Mataji. That's all, Mataji. Thank you.
I need your blessings, Mataji. Who should ask from whom? You're so much, doing so much. And of course, I also feel the same, that we are here, I'm here, I'm not doing anything. So I have no answer for that. So you give me your blessings and we will seek blessings.
I can pray for you, Mataji. I can pray for you, Mataji.
So that we can all serve something
Yeah, I feel we are given more responsibility being in America than we would have been in India. Because every time it comes that, and then one more point that you were insisting, I feel guilty of often, being attached to Vaishnavas more than my family. I feel guilty, but when Prabhupada says that my spiritual family is there, and my family is where my spiritual family is, and it gives a solace that not walking on the wrong path, at least, even if not there where Srila Prabhupada is, but the path is not wrong. So thank you so much, Mataji, for bringing up those beautiful points. Thank you, Mataji.
Wonderful, Mataji. Thank you so much for your questions in every class, and we learn a lot from that, and you're inspiring so many, Mataji, by your example of service. Hare Krishna.
Blessings, Mataji.
Is there anybody having any more realizations? We have some chat messages. Yes, thank you, Suksagiri Mataji, for that link. I have clicked on it. It is showing every book Vanities has published. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vinita Mataji. You are just, kind of like the backbone, always supporting all the services and speakers in Bhakti Sangha.
Thank you, Mataji. I don't have temple. This is only my temple. So you guys all are having temple, right? You'll be very busy with the temple services. Yeah, Shivani Mataji is saying very beautiful and nectarian class, absolutely beautiful class. And Chinmayi Vrajapriya Mataji saying beautiful narration. As side by we were with the Srila Prabhupada during this pastime. Thank you. Yes, Mataji, definitely it felt like we are in that moment. So nicely narrated everything. It was like
the book is so nice, and I just didn't even do justice. Didn't do proper slides also, but yeah, just narrated, and then we like a cow, we can chew it again and again, and each and every action and everything that happened in Srila Prabhupada, we can learn a million things from that.
Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Ji Lalitangi Mataji, Koti Koti Danvat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Shri Radha Gopinath ki jai. Danvat Pranam to all Bhakti Sangha teachers. Mataji, I am sitting in a hospital that time, and very blessed that we can hear anywhere Bhakti Sangha class, Mataji. Whether we are in a MRI or whether we are in a office, doctor office, we can hear, Mataji. In your class or all Bhakti Sangha teachers class, so much potency, Mataji, that Srila Prabhupada said that the abroad, abroad is my family, and Kirtidananda, one time Prabhupada health is not good, that time Kirtidananda, that time there is a CD and record player. I know about my dad is playing that record player, वो राउंड वाला आता था, तो वहाँ पे हरे कृष्णा महामंत्र किया, and so many things, Mataji. Please forgive me, today I am not able to make a notes, Mataji, but I want to inform you that the doctor said that it's so much pain, so not able to come in a Bhakti Sangha and make a notes for a chole recipe. I want to practically explain, Mataji. But today doctor is American, Mataji, but he almost 30 minutes he talked with us, and he said that it's upon you that you wants to do a operation or not. It's so much pain, Mataji, in our knees, but he said that I given so much time because of your this, what is this, and your Kantimala. So this is the Srila Prabhupada mercy, Mataji, all of the story, that because of seeing Tilak and Kantimala, they are so humbly explain everything. Koti Koti Danvat Pranam, Mataji, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Shri Radha Gopinath ki jai. I humbly request to all Vaishnava, please come for Shri Jagannath Yatra. It is on 4th July. That is actually Lalitangi Mataji attend. That is a Panihati festival, 3 days festival. Please come, all of you, and join the Shri Jagannath Rath Yatra. Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Mataji. I make a notes and send it in your inbox.
Oh,
Jai
Krishna,
Jai
Mataji.
Nityananda, Jai Gauranga, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji. Koti Koti Danvat Pranam.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Panihati is where we first met, Mataji. I remember we were cutting the vegetables together. I don't know, we are not able to come this time, so please pray for all of us, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
No, Mataji, you are doing seva in Shri Radha Chor, Mataji. So many making counseling meeting and preaching Vaishnava. Hari Hari Gauranga. Hari Bhakti Mataji told. Thank you, Mataji.
We'll all pray for your health, Vrinda Gopika Mataji, and
Yes,
we all
Mataji.
cannot come there, as Mataji said. Whoever is in Atlanta, they are very lucky. They're going to enjoy, but we cannot come. Please pray for all of us. And if
हाँ
there
बेटा, हाँ सबके लिए pray करेगा. Pray for me that this material health will support.
Definitely,
it will
Mataji.
support Mataji, because you have bhakti in you, right? It will help you.
It is
increase our lifespan.
It is age related. He told that this is age related. So
So is there any more last minute realizations? Please go ahead. Anybody wanted to speak anything? If there are no more realizations, we can end the call for today. I would like to offer my obeisances to Mataji and all the Vaishnavas assembled on the call. Vancha kalpatarupyasya kripa sindhubhye vichapatitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Ananta koti Vaishnavrind ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Har Grace Lalitangi Mataji ki jai.
thank you, Mataji. Koti koti
Thank you,
dandavat
Mataji.
pranam.
Hare Krishna. Dhanwad Pranam.
Thank you everyone for joining. We'll meet tomorrow for